The most reliable way to fix stretched out cuffs, neckbands, and all other types of bands is to reinforce the band with an elastic thread, like this one, for example. We can get away by running just one round of elastic thread, but if we want the whole band to be tightened, then we need to run 3 rounds at the top of the band, at the bottom of the band, and at the middle of the band. To do that, we need to measure a piece of an elastic thread that is 3 times the circumference of the band. So see, I measured just 1, 2, and 3 times, and then we'll leave a little bit more for the tails and thread this elastic thread into a wool needle. If your elastic thread is really fine and you want to use it to tighten a band made out of chunky yarn, then double that measurement and use 2 strands of the elastic thread as one. The first step we need to do is to attach the elastic thread to the band. To do that, we need to turn the band, the project, inside out, and then find a purl stitch somewhere, doesn't really matter, somewhere in the first round of the band that is the closest to the edge of the band. And then we go under the strand that is in the middle of that purl stitch. So to find that strand, you can peek to the right side of the band and find the knit column that runs here, because mostly the bands are made in ribbing. So we find that knit stitch, and then we go to the other side and find the strand, the horizontal strand that is right at the back of that stitch. In this case, it's going to be this one. Another tip to make it easier to find that strand is that if the edge of the band is a cast-on edge, as it is the case over here, then this strand would be an upward curve, like a smile. If this edge is a bind-off edge, then this strand will be a downward curve, like a frown. So in my case, it's a smile, and I just go under that smile. It doesn't matter whether you go bottom up or top down, doesn't make any difference, so do whatever is more comfortable for you. And then run the thread through until you have a medium-sized tail, just long enough to weave in later on. And now we simply tie the tail and the remaining thread with a regular square knot. We tie it once, and then we do it again, second time. Now the thread is secure secured to the project. Why we avoid having a knot? Because the knot could easily run through the stitches, and then the whole work will be undone. All this threading that we're gonna do will be in vain. And tying it like this definitely makes the thread stay in the project. If the stitch is a knit, then we insert the wool needle from right to left under one of the legs of that stitch. Make sure you don't go under both legs, because if you do, then this thread will show on the right side of the fabric, and we don't want that, right? So it is important to go under just one leg. And you can go under the right leg or the left leg, doesn't matter, but I find that right leg somehow is easier for me. But again, doesn't make any difference. As long as it is one leg, go under whatever leg you like. And then pull the thread through. And then we go to the stitch, we come to a stitch that is a purl here, because it's 1x1 ribbing. And we find that smile again. See, in my case, it's over here. It could be a frown, if this edge is a bind-off edge, but what's the most important thing is that it is a horizontal strand that is at the back of that stitch that shows as a knit on the right side of the fabric. So it should be the strand that is at the back. Again, go bottom up or top down, doesn't matter, do whatever you like. And then we keep going. If it's a knit stitch, then we pick one leg. If it's a purl stitch, then we pick that strand in the center of the stitch. Over the time, you can just pick several stitches like this on the needle, and then thread the yarn after that. That will accelerate the project, the process quite a bit. And the same method works when we tighten the cuffs or other bands that are made in different stitch patterns other than just knit by one by one ribbing. Over here I have a 2x2 ribbing, but I follow the same strategy. So whenever I see a purl, I find that smile and go there. Whenever I see a knit, I find one leg of a stitch and go there. Another knit, another leg of a stitch. And a purl, the smile, purl, the smile. And we keep going. And see, I picked quite a few stitches before I pulled the thread through. And we keep going until we get to the end of the round, because bands usually are worked in the round, so that's why I'm showing this to you on a piece that is worked in the round as well. When we pick the last stitch, we need to go under the same starting strand that where we attached the yarn. It is important not to leave any gaps here, because if the yarn is anchored over here and we don't connect it to the first stitch, then what happens over time, it will start pulling these strands apart, and that will create an unsightly mess on the right side of the fabric. So we don't want that. So that's why we need to connect this round of elastic thread and kind of lock it in. And once we do that, we do the very interesting thing. We pull the thread, because now that we have the elastic thread in there, it is time to decide how much we want to tighten this band. So you can redistribute the thread just as I do over here and decide whether this is tight enough for you, or you want maybe to make it even tighter, because it's totally up to you. See, I can tighten it up to this state, and it looks pretty nice and not stretched out anymore. If it is a neckband, then I would highly recommend at this stage to turn the project to the right side, try it on, and adjust this length of the tightened band on you as you try it on, because it is very important, especially for neckbands, because that affects the general fit of the sweater or whatever it is, a cardigan. So once you're happy with the tension, with how tight it is, then we simply make a loop around the same horizontal strand and go into that loop and tighten it to anchor the yarn, the thread, because we want the thread to stay put and not to pull the fabric like this vertically. Because if we don't anchor it over here, if we don't make this knot, then once we pull the thread next time when we tighten the next round, then it might pull the fabric vertical, and that's not what we want. So that's why we anchor it. Now we move to the next round of the same kind of threading through stitches, but to do that we snake the elastic thread to the point, to the stitch, that smile again, that is in the middle of the band. So I would say mine would be over here, this one. So I just move the thread over there by splitting the yarn and hiding it in there. Why I don't just let it hang? Because in this case it's a small band, so it's okay. But if the band is longer, then it will leave a loose loop over here, and it might catch on something. So it's not going to be comfortable if you catch on that loop. So that's why it's better to snake it through the stitches. See, I'm splitting the stitches as I go. And then I go under that strand, the horizontal strand. That's going to be the beginning of the next round of reinforcement. Okay, so here we don't need to pull really the thread too much, because we don't want it to tighten the fabric vertically. That's not the point. So we just let it be, and then we secure the thread over here the same way. We just make a loop, go in there, and ta-da. And then we do exactly the same thing. If we see a knit stitch, we go under one leg. When it's a purl, we find that smile or whatever it is in your case and go in there. Another knit, another purl, another knit, another purl, and then we pull the thread through. Of course, it is best to stay within the same round of fabric, but it's easy to kind of lose our track and go one round up or one round down. That's fine. It's not a big deal really, but if you notice that you're not where you're supposed to be, simply go back to that round, the correct round, so to say, as soon as possible. Okay, so once we thread every stitch of the round onto that elastic thread, then we go underneath that horizontal strand again up, bottom up or top down, doesn't matter, and we kind of consider that this round of threading is finished. But before we secure the yarn, we need to adjust the tension. So again, we pull this thread, redistribute the fabric, and make it as tight as we want it to be. And here are two options. You can make it as tight as the top round and make it kind of rectangular, right? But especially if it's a neckband, you might want to make it a little bit tapered. So you might want to make this round a little bit looser, not as tight, because the neckbands, they need to lay flat on the skin, and they need to kind of to have this transition from the smallest circumference to the main fabric. So again, if you are not sure, try it on and see what is the best way to tighten it so that it fits you well. For cuffs, it's usually okay to tighten it the same way as the top round, but again, it's totally up to you. So right now, you decide how you want your cuff or other band to look. Once you're happy with the tightness, with the width of the band, then secure the thread. Same way, loop, inside the loop, and pull. That's it. And now we move to the third round, the last round of reinforcement, and we do it exactly the same way. So we snake the thread through a few stitches until we get to the last smile in this same column of purls. Why we hide it inside, while we start the round inside purl stitch with a purl stitch, because then the tails will stay within the purl column and they will be hidden. So that's the reason. You can of course start it with a knit stitch, but I find that purls make it more concealed, and it also keeps the tails from hurting our skin, especially if it's kids and the skin is sensitive, so you don't want it, this tail to be sticking out and kind of bothering you, right? So we came to this smile, the last smile of the band, and we secure the thread and start threading the stitches one by one, just like beads. You know, we go one stitch and then the next stitch, and then this tail gets in the way, and then the next stitch and the stitch after that. So it's quite a soothing process actually, especially knowing that it helps you make the band tighter and keep it from stretching out in the future. Once we come to the end of the round, we do the same thing. Pull this thread, tightening it as much as we want. At this point, you decide how tight you want it to be. Again, once you tighten, you will see the shaping right away. If that's good enough for you, that's fine. If it's too tight, then loosen it up a bit. Just, you know, be creative. And once you do that, or before you do that, actually, we go onto that strand, the same one that we started from, to connect the strands in one on the same stitch, and then we secure the thread, the elastic thread, and that's it. We are done. So now, as we have this tail in the wool needle already, we can simply hide it somewhere, going a couple stitches up or to the side. It's totally up to you, just the same way as you hide the tails when you knit, when you finish your knitting. And then make sure you have enough thread, because we don't want to tighten the fabric vertically. Make sure you have enough thread in there, then go a couple steps back and pull it through and cut, leaving a small stub, a small piece. Don't cut it right to the very bottom, because then it might get out of that hiding place and you will have to redo it again. So we don't want to do that. And then we hide the first tail as well. And once we turn the project inside out to the right side, we will see that now the band is perfectly shaped and it is elastic. See, you don't have any issues with putting on your sweater or squeezing your hand through a cuff. It is very much elastic, but it doesn't stretch out, and with a reinforcement like that, it never will. If you find this tutorial helpful, please subscribe to my channel and click the bell icon to be notified every time I publish a new video. Happy knitting, my friend. I'll talk to you in the next tutorial.